Olive May is a folk country singer-songwriter from the southwest of Western Australia who released her debut single, Give Me Something, in 2022. She has an EP due for release this year, and her latest single is the highly motivational Wait and See, which I'm going to ask her about. Hello, Olive.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to speak to you about the song, which I've just had on repeat because it's just one of those songs it's really good for getting up and going, and it's a real statement piece. It is actually not about waiting around to see. It's about going out and making things happen. So I'm wondering when you wrote it.
I actually wrote it when my kids, who actually one of them is turning 14 tomorrow, when they were young, and I was kind of stuck in the treadmill of like just, living every minute for them. And yeah, I kind of, got it wasn't I wasn't the kind of best at coping with being at home for so long with them. So I actually got offered a job opportunity, and it was kind of based around that. The job opportunity didn't really work out. I wasn't really cut out for the corporate life. So yeah, I mean, it's really nice that at least I got a song out of it.
Was the writing of the song in and of itself a way to kind of give yourself that momentum to stop waiting and seeing?
I think it's kind of I've always been one to kind of just jump into things. Yeah, and I suppose that was, it was almost like a celebration of making such a big decision. Yeah, which kind of, yeah, it was a big deal at the time. Looking back, I'm glad I did what I did with that whole situation. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm on a completely different path now and loving every minute.
Which is fabulous because you're producing great music. So you mentioned that you wrote the song when your children were a bit younger. So that means obviously you were hanging on to it for a while. Did it pop into your consciousness every now and again, or were you actually thinking about it all that time, thinking, I really want to record that?
It was definitely one of the songs that I was wanting to record. It was just kind of a timing thing. I definitely wasn't really doing music until after COVID, really. Just doing music seriously anyway. So yeah, I mean, once I started recording, I knew that that was definitely one of the songs that I wanted to record. So yeah, it's good that it's finally out.
So you mentioned that you weren't doing music till after COVID, yet from what I understand, you actually did used to do music before you had children. So you were playing quite a lot, but you didn't take up guitar till you were 18.
No, so I did start playing music at a very young age. Started violin when I was 5,
Wow.
and then played quite a few instruments throughout primary school and high school. Yeah, it's kind of got very inspired by like the Waves and Missy Higgins. Wanted to be just like them, so taught myself guitar. And yeah, like, and then quite quickly got a band together and started playing some gigs. My drummer moved away, and kind of he was really quite instrumental in getting me out, doing all this stuff anyway. So once that happened, it was a bit hard. And quite soon after that, I actually had um our first baby anyway. So then I was really busy just kind of doing all of that stuff, and music definitely took a back seat for quite a while, a lot longer than I it probably should have in hindsight. But it's nice to be doing it, even though I feel like I've been doing it for so long, and there's still such a way to go for me. So it's good. I finally decided what I wanted to do with my life.
You mentioned it taking longer. You had longer away than you should have had, or maybe than you planned to have. But I guess it's a thing where, it's not as simple as just go, oh, well, I'm going back to that because there's so much momentum that you do need in order to be an artist, whether it's writing song, well, especially if you're wanting to record things, play. It's not like, oh, I can go from a standing start. So I imagine at a certain point, it might feel like that's almost insurmountable to get back to that place you were in.
Yeah, I suppose, I was young and naive and didn't really realize how kind of much momentum I was building back then. And so yeah, I mean, I suppose I've given it a go quite a few times. and kind of started getting gigs around and doing a bit of writing, and then would stop because I couldn't be bothered, and life was pulling me in other directions. So yeah, I mean, I haven't really realized just how much momentum you need until now, really, in the last couple of years. But yeah, it's good to be doing it for sure. Momentum was actually my word of the year last year, so I think I'm on the right track.
So do you choose a word a year? Because I do that as well.
Yes, I do. I've listened to a lot of Mamma Mia podcasts, and that's where I got the idea from. But yeah, so yeah, I think my word this year is build. So I want to build on my music career.
Yeah.
So that's good. It's good. I like it. It keeps me focused.
And they do work together, momentum and build, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, in terms of momentum and when you have it in a career, I do think when you have children, it's actually not necessarily motherhood, but running like a household, a life that has rhythms that are not that don't really match that well with creative life. Because I think in creative life you probably need longer arcs, and household life requires sort of stop start and disparate activities.
absolutely. Yes, and I'm forever going, okay, next week's clear. I'm gonna sit down and I'm just gonna spend the whole day writing or like doing something musically. And inevitably I look around and go, oh, I need to do washing, I need to clean the house, and I just find it very hard to separate the mum life and housewife life, the music life. But yeah, I mean, being on the road on our recent trip was the best because there was none of that really. So I actually did get a lot of chances just to sit and play music, which was really good. But I think something that I'm definitely going to take back into my life from here at home.
Now you mentioned this trip. This trip started in late August last year and took you from Western Australia. Well, I don't think you. I don't know. Maybe you drove from Western Australia to the East Coast, but you certainly drove down the East Coast of Australia or up the East
Yes,
Coast of Australia.
yeah. We went all the way around the bottom from WA through South Australia, Victoria, up the East Coast, all the way to Cairns and then back down.
Right.
And then back up again a bit and then across. So yeah, it was huge. 6 months in the caravan. We're actually in the caravan again now. We have got home, but we're couldn't get enough of caravan life. No, we're away with friends at the moment for Easter. But it's good to be back. It feels like we never left.
From what I understand, you actually went to the Tamworth Country Music Festival this year in the caravan on Familia. Which
Yes,
also
I
got
did. I have never been so hot as I was in Tamworth at the Riverside campground with no power. Oh my gosh, it was so hot.
it's
Well, it's a good experience.
because did you play at the Riverside Campground? Because I know there was a stage there.
Yes, I did. I did play there on Australia Day, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I knew it was going to be hot, but I didn't know it was going to be that hot.
And considering you've been driving the East Coast in summer, that's saying something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. I think we got actually quite a bad spell of weather while we were there. But yeah, I mean, it was amazing to be there, and it's just made me so much kind of more aware of the level that is out there, that is like the level that you have to be with your skills and your songwriting and all of that. So I am definitely working on that from now on, but yeah, I think I'm on the right track. So it was just really good and really inspiring to be there, and I can't wait to go back.
And I do like to say that festival, the Tamworth Country Music Festival, is a central reason why the level of music in and around the country music genre in Australia is so high, because you're all there, as you just said, like you see who's around, what's going on with songwriting. And I do think there are opportunities for collaborations, obviously, but it all just kind of keeps you sharp in what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. Never having been there before and kind of only being quite new to country music. So yeah, it's amazing. What an amazing opportunity for all of us to have it just there to go to every year and just do our thing.
Now I can see an animal over your shoulder, and I'm wondering if your cat came with you on the road.
Oh, it's a little dog. That's
It's a
a little
dog.
dog, Norman. He came
Oh,
on the
sorry. I
road.
thought I
Yeah,
saw him. Thought I saw
yeah,
a feline paw. I was like, I'm sure that's a cat.
pretty cute. Yeah, we actually, yeah, he came with us all the way around Australia. Came to
Uh-huh.
Tamworth. Yeah, it was, I, we didn't really kind of miss out on anything because we had a dog, which was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very much part of the family.
Now you mentioned that you played violin from the age of 5, which does make sense to me more actually, because when I read that you had taken up guitar at 18, I thought, well, she sounds like a very well developed artist to have picked up an instrument so late. But if you were playing violin and then you mentioned some other instruments, so what were those other instruments you were playing?
So I played violin for 5 years. I played flute for I think like 2 years, and I played the clarinet very briefly because I just it seemed like the cool thing to be doing, playing clarinet in the mid 1990s. So that's what at my school anyway. Yeah, so I did that, and then I did piano in high school, and also did singing lessons as well.
Well, clarinet being, of course, the gateway drug to saxophone, I think that's a reason quite a few people take it up in high school.
Well, it was funny. It was, yeah, when I was in primary school, but like half the class was doing saxophone and half the class was doing clarinet, and I think there were actually too many people doing doing the saxophone, so I had to do the clarinet instead.
Right. So once you learned guitar, I'm guessing that was the opening for you to start writing songs because you had an instrument on which it was probably easy. I know you can write on piano, but I imagine guitar was the instrument on which you started writing songs.
I definitely did. And yeah, like quite soon after I learned how to play, I started writing songs as well. Some of them I still actually do play to this day, which is good. Good indication of the level that it was. I think they're all right. Anyway. But yeah, I can't write songs on piano. I've tried so many times and it doesn't feel right or something. I don't know.
I think it's a different experience. And also because you're not likely to play those songs live on piano, it makes more sense to write them on guitar.
Yeah, yeah, probably. And it's easier just to carry your guitar around and pick it up whenever you feel like.
Absolutely. So, given that you started writing songs not long after you picked up guitar, were those songs just sitting there waiting for an outlet? Like, had you been keeping notes? Did you have some like melodies in your brain that you were thinking these need to get out somewhere?
I think like now that you've said that, I think maybe so. Um, but I definitely this first song, well, one of the first songs I wrote that actually is any good is called Empty Promises, and I think I wrote it in about half an hour and it just came out. I mean, that was a time in my life that I had like having some teenage heartbreak, and it was a very good outlet to have songwriting. But yeah, I mean, I don't I think I just so wanted to be like Missy Higgins and like the Waves. I was like, oh, surely it's not that hard. I'll just give it a crack and see how I go. But yeah, I mean, they're very simple songs, but yeah, I mean, it's a good base to start with, I suppose.
Absolutely. And even though you played all those instruments, there's no guarantee that you're going to be comfortable performing. And so once you had the guitar in your hand, I should also ask you, when did you start singing? Because that was essential to performance as well.
Yeah, and funny you mentioned that because in school was horrified about singing in front of anyone. And to be honest, I actually don't think I was very good either. But my mum was my number one um fan from like day one. I think I used to sit in the car and sing a lot, like when I was tiny, and she was like, "Oh, like because she's a terrible singer, so she won't mind me saying that because she says it herself." But I think she was just like, "Oh, well, my daughter can actually sing, okay." And yeah, so I suppose I started singing lessons in high school, probably like year 8 or 9, but she also always had people over for dinner, and it horrifies me that this happened because I couldn't think of anything worse if I went to someone's house and this happened to me. We'd be sitting around the dinner table, and she'd be like, talking to whoever it was. Like I might not have even known them, and she'd be like, "Oh, Liv can sing. She can sing really well. Sing, Liv, sing." And I didn't have. It was just me a cappella singing um to these whoever it was. And at the time I was horrified. But as it turns out, now I can sing in front of anyone and I don't even care. So she actually did me a massive favor there, even though, yeah, it was mortifying.
I think for any teenager, well, most teenagers, that would be mortifying, particularly with no instrument. It's a natural reaction.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like full on. And I was always like, no, no, no. But she's very good, very convincing and doesn't take no for an answer. So I always had to do it. Yeah, which has actually been really good.
So what was your first gig when once you had guitar and some songs that you'd written, what was the first gig you played?
I'm pretty sure it was a concert in the park where we live. Our town is called Quarama, just up the road from Margaret River. And they had some sort of like local music festival.
Mhm.
And I played that with my band. It's really cool.
Oh, so you had a band by then as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So like very soon after I started writing, I yeah, had my friend who was the drummer and then he was playing with a bass player. So yeah, we just got together and did songs. It was really cool.
So did you mainly play around the Margaret River region when you were younger, or did you travel further afield?
No, I definitely did. I don't, and I never did that many gigs either, um, with the original band. So yeah, I did a few gigs and yeah, in Margaret River because it was yeah, just easier with everyone else. I don't think I played by myself until I was a bit older.
All
It,
right.
yeah.
And how did that feel once you were playing on your own? Because if you're used to a band, I would imagine it's a bit vulnerable standing out there with just you and a guitar.
Yeah. And I think it was all very new. Like I didn't know anything about, having sound equipment or anything. And I remember buying my first PA from a local musician down in Margaret River, and he helped me set it up at the first couple of gigs, and then I was on my own and just like so stressed and like so nervous about the whole situation. There were just some really beautiful venues that always just were like, "Yeah, come play, that's totally fine." And looking back, I can't have been much good, but it was really nice that I had those opportunities to, learn and grow. And yeah, it's been a long process, like thinking back on how long ago that was. Yeah, and how far I've come. It's actually really good.
And I noticed that you are playing some venues in that same part of Australia over the next few weeks. So I'm wondering if any of them are the same venues that you played all those years ago.
Yeah, so I just played at Cave's House in Yellingup a couple last weekend. And that was like the first gig that I did with my new sound gear.
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely, I mean, some of them don't exist anymore, some of them don't do live music anymore, but there's definitely quite a few that yeah, are still around and are still very like welcoming and very supportive of local young musicians, which is really nice.
So clearly you were pretty good back then because they've had you back.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, that was a long time ago. So I've been back several times since. And yeah, I think I like to think that every time I go back, I'm a tiny bit better, maybe.
So you've mentioned the Waves, who are also a WA band, and Missy Higgins. Are there other artists who have influenced you perhaps more recently now that you're recording and releasing quite a bit more music?
Well, it's very funny because I didn't realize until probably earlier this year, really, that I was a massive Sarah Storer fan and had her album, like the one that's got like, I don't know, it's like Buffalo Bill and, um, I can't even
I
remember,
think
Man
might
Trap
be
and
Chasing
stuff.
Buffalo, the first.
Chasing Buffaloes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That one. I had that on repeat in my car for years and kind of didn't really think much of it, just really liked the songs and really liked her as an artist and stuff. And like even just on my recent trip around Australia, I was in Queensland and someone was like, "Oh, it sounds so much like Sarah Storer." And I was like, "Oh." Yes, well, probably because yeah, she actually probably was quite a big influence on me, and I didn't even realize. So yeah, so there's that. I don't know. I feel like my influences are like are things that I obviously don't even realize until much later on down the track. I mean, I'm always listening to Paul Kelly because he's like my comfort listen. And if I could write a song like half as good as he ever could, that would be amazing. I suppose also Fanny is probably a big inspiration to me, just like the way that she goes about her touring and doing her music her own way and kind of having her own sound. I really, yeah, take a lot from that because obviously being at Tamworth, everyone was kind of like, there was a lot of the same kind of mold of country music
Mhm.
girls. And I just don't at all feel like I'm anything like them, but definitely, kind of feel a bit more like Fanny in the way I sound, like comparably to I don't know, someone like Max Jackson or, you know, something like that. So yeah, no, it's really good to have her being such a big influence just on the whole scene, really. She's over just got to London
Mm.
to do another tour. So oh, she's amazing. And a lovely girl too. I spoke to her at Tamworth and told her, how much um, I was inspired by her. And she was like,
And you both like the caravan life.
exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think, to be honest, I actually think it would be easier with her kids the age they are because my kids have a lot of opinions about the fact that they don't actually want to be traveling and they want to be at home with their friends. So, yeah, I mean, I probably should have done this 10 years ago, but oh well, better late than never.
Well, exactly. They are still your children. They do need to do what you say because you're adults.
Yeah, yeah, no. Teenagers, though.
And speaking of being on the road, you released a song called "Hit the Road" last year. I'm wondering if because you talk in the song, you talk about taking off on the road. Did you actually record and release it before you went on the road, or did you do it while you were on the road?
I wrote it. I did some recording just before we left. I think I did it in July, and I wrote the song in June. It just came to me as I was going to sleep one night in my favorite way that a song comes to me. Oh, so great! And it came like first verse and chorus, like the whole thing. I was like, this is excellent. So yeah, it came to me. I wrote it down, um, and kind of took it basically quite soon after into the studio and I was like, definitely, this is like the soundtrack to my trip. So
Yeah.
I'm going to need to have this one recorded quick. So yeah, it was really good timing actually. Yeah, I love that song. It was actually the last song that I played at my last gig before we came home, which was really nice.
Yeah. So you say that it sounds like songs come to you often when you're falling asleep. So are you prepared? Do you have stuff next to the bed just in case that happens?
Yeah, I just always put it on my phone notes and voice notes. I sang into my phone the other night as I was going to sleep. I need to do something with it. I listened back to it the next day because I was like, was that even a thing? And I was like, oh yeah, that was not too bad.
So you are working towards the release of an EP. Do you have a release date in mind, or are you going to release some more singles before that point?
I do have one more single to release before I release the full EP, but it should be out by the middle of the year. And yeah, the EP is called Hit the Road because I was planning to release it while I was on the road or maybe before, but I didn't really understand how EP releases actually worked. So that's good. It doesn't matter.
But I would imagine that given the traveling you've just done, you may not be hitting the road to play shows for the EP.
Absolutely not. I've already done that. Like it should be something like she has already hit the road.
Well,
um Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, I think we're definitely going to stay put for a while. Everyone's happy to be home back, in their, comfortable environment back at kids are back at school. They're loving it. So yeah, I don't think I could convince them to get back in the caravan for an extended period of time anytime soon for sure.
Well, Olive May, the latest single is called Wait and See. I don't think we could accuse you of waiting to see anything. You have certainly got out and grabbed life by the horns. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. Lovely chatting.